Hey guys, so this is my first commentary video, which is obviously really weird for me, especially because I'm just talking to myself in the mic. But just before I get into everything, I am sorry for not uploading for a long time. I was like extremely delayed. I had so many things blocking me, like I had testing, and actually I was not supposed to be doing this. I was supposed to be doing normal recording of the Splatoon series that I had, but all my files got deleted. Fun. So yeah, I lost all my progress on that, so I pretty much got to where it was in the ranks for nothing. I'm still like trying to just be okay with just losing all those files, but I don't think I'm gonna do Splatoon for a while, or at least just for one or two recordings or videos, because that's just gonna make me feel bad, because what if that just happens again? So I want to just do something that I know that could be relied upon, that you guys can get something from there. But yeah, but with that little tangent out of the way, time to get to another one. This video will contain huge spoilers, since this is a commentary video about Ghost Trick, and it's a really great game that I suggest you try it for yourself if you can, or if not, you could watch gameplay of it. If you don't want to just be bored watching it, I suggest watching the VOD of Salty DK Dan playing it, since that's the one that entertains me personally, and that's how I was also reminded of this game's existence again. But enough for my little tangent here, let's get on to the video. So, Ghost Trick Phantom Detective is definitely not a name that a lot of people heard about. It was released for both the DS and iOS starting at 2010 and just wasn't talked a whole lot about, at least in the US. I mean, it even got awarded the best game that no one played by GameSpot. Quick editor's note, I found out that it was actually an irrelevant citation, so it wasn't actually won the award for best game no one played, but it did win the award for best handheld game and was nominated for the best puzzle game and game of the year by GameSpot, so that was a big mistake on my part. Ghost Trick was made by Capcom and directed by Shu Takumi, who is actually the creator of the Attorney series, which, as you should know if you've ever played it, it's a detective game just like Ghost Trick. So there's not a whole lot to talk about with this game, only that it was big in Japan and having sold 24,000 copies on release week. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but with the backstory being shined upon in this game...
Yeah, it's rewind time.
So gameplay. The main focus of Ghost Trick deals with, well, ghost tricks. Ghost tricks are powers of the dead that allow you to manipulate things. I'll get into more detail with this on the plot section, but just know that these tricks can save lives by changing their fate. So another gameplay element is the Ghost World, which is a world that time has stopped completely in, and it's what allows you to move throughout the game. You move by possessing cores in this world, which are the heart of objects, I guess. It's never really explained why you can only possess certain objects out of cores, but you just roll with it. So, the key ghost trick in this game, which I kind of hinted at when I did the transition, is being able to rewind 4 minutes before someone's death, which is actually the main thing that allows you to change their fate. There are other tricks in this game, but those are pretty much the main ones that make this game work. Everything all works hand in hand, and it's really satisfying to just mess around and see what can work with if it's your first time playing. Messing around is actually allowed by the game, because if you just so happen to fail to change someone's fate, you can just rewind time again, which is really helpful for first timers. Overall, it's definitely really unique, especially compared to Ace Attorney, since instead of solving multiple small cases, this game is all one big case, and it's more of a platformer instead of just a point and click, I guess. Which is why it's time to get into plot, the thing that makes the game run. I love the plot for this game. When you finish it for the first time and replay the intro, you understand so much, and I won't spoil it, you're obviously gonna have to see it for yourself. But I am just gonna say one more time that if you've never watched or played through Ghost Trick, please try to do so, because it really is such a great game, and I'm gonna skip out on some big gameplay points since this is just a quick summary. So, we start off dead, in the junkyard, which actually starts off the whole chain of motion for this plot. You wake up from being dead and you're introduced to Ray, who is a ghost that possesses a desk lamp that seems to know more than what he's telling you. But before you're able to ask any questions, you have to save a damsel in distress first from an assassination. You do so by learning from Ray these ghost tricks that you have, which you're able to save the girl whose name is Lynne, who is actually the key part to solving your big mystery this game has, which is to find out who you are. You see, when you wake up from the ghost world after dying, you forget who you are, so you have to find out who you were to gain your memories back. And the worst part is, you don't even know your own name. So you could just live the rest of your days not knowing who you are since you don't want to remember, but that would be very bad because Ray said that if you don't remember who you are at the end of sunrise, you will disappear. So that pretty much determines yourself to go ahead and find out who you were before you disappear. We do some ghost trick magic to go through a phone line via possession, and we're introduced to a little short man from an unknown country who knows who you are, and it's here about 10 minutes into the game that you finally figure out your name. Sizzle. Of course you think, oh hey, game's over since we now know our name from the guy from the Blue Man Group, but not how we died, or who we were before we died. The man also knows Lynne, the girl we just saved, which is her name. And this is where you start to figure out that Lynne is a key part to figuring out your identity, and will now cover literally almost the whole game as we dive deeper into this game, and you'll start to become a bit concerned. About what? You'll see soon. Right now we have something greater to worry about, because that man has just called another assassin who is actually in Lynne's home right now. So we travel again by the phone line, and we have your next fate to change. Missile. We're saving a dog. He died for protecting Lynne's sister figure, Camila, and you save him and go to the next area, which is back by the junkyard, and oh my god, Lynne's dead again. We save her again, and we learn that we actually contacted Lynne to come to the junkyard today, and later on in the story, we find out that she is actually the prime suspect for killing us. We follow another telephone line to some prison, which will be important later, and then immediately back to Lynne, who literally, right after being saved, ran off to the basement of the superintendent's office where she was just saved. And guess what happens? That's right, she dies. Once again. This has been the third time she's died, and it's only been 1 hour. And you know, I would have been fine. I would have been fine if she just died normally this third time. But she died to a literal Rube Goldberg contraption. She stood there, waiting as a gun fired at her. Why? Anyways, we save her like the nice guy we are, and she wants us to go to the special security prison to figure out a prisoner's schedule. And the prison we're going to is actually the one that we just went to a few minutes ago, right before Lynne died. So we go there again and learn about each of the prisoners and why they were arrested. So first off, we have prisoner C-38, who is actually a rock star named Rock Jailbird, and yes, that is probably just a Michael Jackson reference. But what he did was pull a whole Twitter moment and leak national secrets during a live concert. So he pretty much spilled the tea. So for our next prisoner, C-74, or aka the curry-loving jailbird, I don't know why they all have to do with jail names. but he was able to break into the Metro Police Department building and hold the chief commissioner at gunpoint. But it's not even gunpoint because it's with a flamethrower, which is insane. I don't even know how he was able to get in there in the first place with a flamethrower of all things. But when the police asked what his demands are for the hostage situation, he asked for 5 servings of curry and rice, which is like, huh? You're in a hostage situation and you ask for curry and rice? But that is where he got his nickname from. Unfortunately though, he pulled a Nikocado avocado moment and said the curry was too spicy and burned the commissioner's office down, along with his mustache. The commissioner's mustache, of course. That guy who looks like Gru can't even grow a mustache, probably. And now we have our final prisoner, which is the one that Lynne asked for. His number is Prisoner D99, or Detective Jowd. I'll get into why he's here later, but we travel to his cell in a very interesting way by being flushed down a toilet. Yeah. And we finally figure out his schedule. It's blank. There's also one other thing that's very important. D99 was actually doing a painting while we arrived, and he's painting because he wants to remember the person's face that he's painting. He turns the painting around and it's us. It's Sizzle. Huh? So now we have 2 people who are related to Lynne and D99, or Detective Jowd, and that's a big plot detail. So after having an existential crisis about finding out that this man knows who you are, you go back to the phone you arrived from to see one of the guards on the phone talking to the chief and Inspector Cabbanela. Now, you might have seen Cabbanela from the footage before, but I didn't really talk about him. But he's been throughout this whole story, and he's basically a Michael Jackson ripoff as a detective. He literally has a pep in his step, and he literally does everything as if he was a Michael Jackson ripoff. This whole game really loves Michael Jackson for some reason. But it is made by the Japanese, and they really did love him, so I guess that makes sense. And this is the part where I was talking about before of Lynne being a suspect, because right here is where we find out that Cabbanela and the chief are looking at camera footage from the junkyard, and we see us getting shot. We also see a black cat pop out of a bag from our little bag that we were carrying, and despite how minor it seems, it is kind of like a major plot point in this game. So you can kind of see that literally everything is just a plot point waiting to happen. But right after that, we get a call from the chicken kitchen, which I guess we'll call the KFC of this universe. Or no, Popeyes. Popeyes is way better. It matches the color scheme. And we were actually supposed to meet Lynne there. So we go in to investigate and possibly get answers from Lynne, but sound the emergency meeting. There's a dead body in cafeteria because Lynne just freaking died in the cafeteria. And guess what? She died to a comedically large chicken. I have so many questions because 1, why is there a comically large chicken just as decor in this chicken kitchen? And 2, how did she not see it? Like, it's a big chicken. Now, before I go into this chicken fiasco, I'm gonna go into a little tangent about the thumbnail. So, by now you're probably understanding why the thumbnail looks like this, because I am just so dumbfounded how many times Lynne can't use common sense and just instantly die. Like, you think just on the second time she died, she might have just, thought that, nah, everything that's gonna go down today, it doesn't matter. Like, she's been through death twice, and she somehow still wants to keep going on. I mean, that's dedication, but, like, you gotta stop somewhere. So we go into the ghost world and we start talking to Lynne and respectfully question her on why we've been shot by her, and she has no recollection of it. And that seems a bit sussy. And then of course, since the game is a point and click thing, you just tell her about D99's chalkboard, like literally nothing happened of you questioning her. Like you were just specifically telling her that she was a murderer, and the next point she has nothing affecting her about it, but she does freak out over the blank chalkboard, so that it is something. Because she basically tells us that it's like he's a culprit in Danganronpa because it's execution time, baby. Also, the big case that Lynne just really doesn't want to let go and has died 4 times for already, and which was the whole point of us meeting Lynne when we got shot by her, was because we had information on it. She believes that D99 or Detective Jowd is innocent. For what? We'll go into that a bit later. But the more important thing right now is that us as Sizzle just says, hey, you know what? I'm a nice guy, you're a nice girl, I'm fine that you murdered me in cold blood. I'm gonna save your life now. So we save her and another detective that like drove through the window, and now we gotta save prisoner D99 because we're just that type of nice guy. Also, we're gonna refer to him as Detective Jowd for the rest of the time because it's getting too weird just saying D99 and Detective Jowd. But we're doing all this just so we can simp for the little lady, and also because he might have some answers about what happened that night. So when we get to the prison, he's pretty much dead. So we just cut the power and save him via stealth mission, and it's one of the greatest stealth missions I've ever seen in any game ever, just for the fact of Ball Jowd. I don't know why it's just so funny, but it's just one of those things that I'm like, funny ball, and my monkey brain activates. But once Jowd escapes, he's at gunpoint, and from none other than Michael Jackson. And we actually learned that Michael Jackson, or Cabbanela, and Jowd were actually best friends. Now I'm actually going to skip a huge portion of this game because nothing really gets too interesting. All you really need to know is that Jowd was escorted by Cabbanela, and Camila, the little girl who's Lynne's roommate, was kidnapped by these foreigners. One who's, like, I'm not even kidding, he's a simp for this lady. I can't believe how they literally predicted simps in this game. And the Prime Minister couldn't revoke Jowd's death penalty since he was put on death row because he thought his daughter was kidnapped, but it was Camila. Anyway, Detective Jowd actually tells us that a key part to solving this whole case is actually a music box that Camila had, and she got kidnapped at the park. So we travel to the park and find the quote-unquote park guardian, who is really some weird nature activist who looks like he's on drugs and acts like he's on drugs. And he died via crushing, and he was actually holding the music box before getting crushed. So despite him being really weird and not wanting to save him, we travel back in time to save him and find out, of course, that Camila was kidnapped. And when he was being kidnapped, she was being stalked by Mr. Simp and got saved by someone who literally has the power of God because they somehow manipulate a stone. And this was the stone that, when swapped instead of crushing Camila, crushed the activist. And as it turns out, the person with all of these god powers, Missile. The dog is literally more powerful than you. But actually not really, because I mean, he can only swap items that have a similar shape, and he only switched it with a small leaf that had the similar shape of the rock. But it is a very cool power, especially because he has an extended reach, which will be very helpful later on. But again, as you might have guessed by now, it is a ghost trick, which means that Missile is actually dead. He was actually run over by Mr. Simp and fell into a ditch. But he is pretty chill with it because at least he's able to protect his owners, which is really his driving force in this. It is kind of sad, but at least he is happy though. So with fate changed, the park activists can give Lynne the music box when she arrives, and get another plot time. So we get another lore dump when they meet each other, and I'll also put in something that I glossed over a bit. So Detective Jowd actually inspired Lynne to become a detective because of an event, and this is what the event is. Lynne was a victim in a hostage situation. She was actually the hostage from an escaped criminal. And this criminal was actually shot by Detective Jowd, and that's the whole reason that she's inspired by it in the first place. And this whole thing caused the whole plot of Lynne trying to put together this big case so she can kind of reward Jowd for how much work he's done in the past. Also, we get another small quote-unquote lore dump, I guess, because it's kind of just like a hint towards something. So Camila was brought to her old home actually, since she was kidnapped. For some reason, the kidnappers brought her there, and you actually see a similar contraption that Lynne was killed by, and this is actually the original contraption. So you see, the contraption that Lynne was killed by is a model replica of the one that's in this room, because in this room is where Camila's mom died, and the way she died was the exact same way as Lynne. So, TLDR, I guess, what's in this room right now killed Camila's mom the way it killed Lynne, and the replica is just an examination of that area. This will make a bit more sense because you're probably thinking, why would there be a similar contraption over there in the junkyard, but I'll explain it later. But the main thing to get from this contraption is that Detective Jowd took the blame for the contraption that killed her mother, because for some reason it went off a different way instead of being a birthday surprise, because this happened during Camila's mom's birthday. It accidentally killed her with the gun. And then all of this of Detective Jowd being put into custody is the whole reason Lynne's trying to save Jowd from being executed. So we finally get our last bit of lore dump for this area, which is actually from Mr. Save the Park over here, that the events 10 years ago had more going on. So 10 years ago was the day that Camila got kidnapped and was held hostage. But apparently Detective Jowd did not shoot the suspect, but instead it was a meteor that flew down and one of the shards pierced the guy's back, which was the true reason that he died. So pretty much Lynne and Jowd thought their whole life that Jowd killed the man, but it was in fact this meteorite, what is actually called Temsic, named after the park that it fell in, that killed it. Also, do note that little crater that missile died in was actually a remnant of the Temsic meteor, and there was actually a shard there, and that's a little hint towards the final chapters, and it's a key plot point. So after that lore bomb extravaganza, we rush back with Lynne to the Prime Minister's office, with Jowd pretty much saying a huge fuck you, because he basically says that we were the person who held Lynne hostage 10 years ago, but then says, oh hey, fuck you again, because guess what? It wasn't actually you. So we literally just had a heart attack panic for literally nothing, but then immediately right after we get a call from Cabbanela saying that if Jowd isn't killed, the hostage will be killed instead, which makes everyone think, oh, he's the funny haha imposter, but he's actually being held at gunpoint by our dead body. Fun. Cabbanela gets killed literally right after saying that death threat by the dead man, who is going by Sizzle, which is our name, but apparently his name. And he gives a call back to that strange man who we learned our name from earlier, and he's in a submarine, which, like, how do you connect to the phone lines from that? This is so confusing, but we can't really do anything about that strange guy since we do have to save Cabbanela and go back for him before his death again. So we learned from Cabbanela that apparently we, or whoever's controlling our dead body, the whole point of him doing all this is just we can bring revenge to the people who killed him or were a part of his incident 10 years ago. Zhao chasing him down, Cabbanela doing something that allowed Sizzle to take Lynne, and somehow he wants to kill Lynne even though she was just a hostage. Like, she did nothing wrong except just be in that park. Like, really self-centered, like, holy shit. And then Cabbanela wakes up after being unconscious in the ghost world, and, you know, despite seeing his killer right in front of him, is actually pretty chill because he realizes that, you know, we just look exactly like the guy, not the person who actually killed him. We also actually learned that this other Sizzle is someone just like us with ghost tricks, but is obviously way more powerful as we couldn't control our dead body in the beginning of the game, but somehow this guy has control of it. So we obviously can't really deal with him, but we can kind of ghost trick our way into the basement, and it looks worse than an episode of Hoarders. Holy shit, it's completely trashed, and there's a dead body there, which is actually the superintendent's body. We connect with him in the ghost world, and unlike the chill Cabbanela, he's literally quite displeased for us just looking like the guy in red. But Cabbanela convinces him to trust us. And we travel back forwards for his death, which will allow us to change the full course of events that happened here. So when we travel back, it looks like we can do nothing, since if we do anything, the person who's controlling our body will immediately see it. But then we get our biggest clutch plot moment, Missile. I don't know how he got here in the sewer, but I mean, I'm not gonna complain. I mean, someone had to flush him down there though, so that's probably very concerning. Going past that, we pull a Penn and Teller move and fool this imposter by swapping the floor that the superintendent was on to pretty much save his life. We were able to change the superintendent's fate pretty much completely, but not Cabbanela's, since he pretty much does broken bones. But at least now we have more options since we know that Missile's with us. So we do another kind of magic trick move, and somehow Missile has the speed of a bullet because he literally does a screw you move and uses his swap power to switch a bullet with a wool knitted hat. And I mean, it works. We save Cabbanela from getting shot, and instead he's hit with a wool knitted hat. And it just goes to show how stupid this guy is. Despite being really powerful and being able to manipulate a dead body, he really can't notice A, the wool knitted hat, and B, Cabbanela doing a stylish pose while he's dead. Also, since we heard the other Sizzle guy talk with the Blue Man guy, we know that they're actually partners, and that Blue group is pretty much from a foreign country, but he wanted to prove that he was actually legit by saying he had powers, because I mean, who in like literally anywhere would believe some guy if they just called you saying, oh hey, yeah, I have magic ghost powers? So to prove it, he caused two major incidents that are very familiar in this game. Prisoner C-38 with his leaking of the national secrets, and C-74 for burning down the commissioner's office. Tonight was actually the day that he would complete his job, and he'd be escorted to a submarine, which, if you remember, that's where the Blue Man guy is. Also, apparently Cabbanela just wanted to buy time so Jad wasn't killed because, you know, he did trust God the whole time, which was the whole reason for him being put at gunpoint in the first place, and being given that little pocket watch, and to just be brought in front of the minister because, you know, he just really believed Jowd. And he also thought that it was in fact Sizzle that manipulated the original contraption to kill his wife. While still recovering from the magic act, we talked with the superintendent and learned that 1, he was actually a medical examiner for the police before becoming the superintendent, and 2, he actually studied our body and found out that while the person is dead, we have no markings of the meteorite that hit him. Also, the superintendent tried to perform an autopsy, and to perform one you have to cut into the corpse, but the incision would heal instantly, which I guess we can call him the Rasputin of this game if Rasputin died under god powers. And Rasputin just couldn't get an autopsy done, I guess. I mean, while the superintendent was out after he did the failed autopsy, the other sizzle just got up and left the room, no questions asked. And also apparently he's unkillable since he's dead, which makes no sense at all, but kinda does, I guess. Also, the body has some radiation coming off of it, and in fact, the superintendent did some tests where the Temsik crash was, and it had similar radiation of the corpse. So it seems that those two are related, and we kind of have a bit of suspicion that the meteor might have something to do with Ghost Tricks, but we don't know just yet. Also, since we now know that this guy is going to the submarine with the Blue Man guy, we kind of think for a moment we have no way of catching him, but then we also get another BS plot saber thing, and basically Cabbanela, when he shot the body, instead of it being an actual bullet, it was a tracker, and apparently the watch that Jowd received while he was being held hostage by Cabbanela was actually a tracker thing that allows him to see where this body is, which is like, what? It's very dumb because, like, how did Cabbanela know that, one, Jowd would escape, two, he knew that he would be captured by the dead body, and three, how did he even, like, prepare everything so he could load the bullet? Not even a bullet. Well, yeah, it is a tracker bullet, but, like, he just confuses me. And then somehow everyone was able to get in the submarine in like a few minutes, which means you have to be like really close to the ocean or something, but whatever. So we used the phone line to go ahead and see that we get the ahaha, I'm evil, and here's the bad man you're looking for, with Jowd in there, and then we get the dramatic chair spin and all that, but Sizzle, this other Sizzle, isn't inside that body. He's actually controlling Camila, which, like, ooh, Jowd's only family left because, yes, Camila is Jowd's daughter, as we mentioned before, and ooh, is being possessed somewhere, but I forgot to mention throughout this whole thing that this Blue Man guy, the leader, his name is Sith. Sith, for some reason, shows us the only reason he partnered up with Sizzle was to capture the fragment that was lodged in his body 10 years ago. So he removes the Temsik fragment and then somehow is able to launch the control room, which is where they are, up out of the submarine and into the ocean, which I'm not even going to question why or how, but okay then. So we hear some noise from another room, which is the boiler room, and we go to investigate, and you'll never believe what happens this time. Lynne's dead again. Ooh. Seriously, I mean, I understand that she's like a really key part and saving her is like so essential, but I'm just... is it even worth it to save her at this point? We already know what's happening. We can just leave her, right? But I guess we really have to. So, while saving Lynne, we learn that Sith is planning on seeing his whole submarine down while he escapes with the Temsik fragment, so the other Sizzle can't escape to try and get his revenge on him, because why wouldn't he after being betrayed and being sunken down to the bottom of the sea? But speaking of escape, Sith gets on a smaller sub now and leaves, so it's just waiting around for us getting closer to death just by even listening to him in the first place. Surprisingly, it takes us like around 15 minutes to escape this whole area, or at least for me, because I died in this area like once, just because it was so long and I was like a little kid, but never mind that. So we finally reach the top and we get handled like it's New Super Mario Bros. U in here, and we finally meet face to face with the other Sizzle. Except not really, because it's not his body, it's like an amalgamation of like tin cans that he used to create a shell of his body, I guess. But we got lied to again. His name actually isn't Sizzle, but he won't tell us his name yet. Instead, though, he does confirm the little theory that we had of the Temsic fragment pretty much giving everyone ghost tricks, and they're actually special to each person that died next to a fragment. So keep in mind it's actually being next to a fragment that kind of gives a huge key to our own identity. It also involves time, which can really mean anything of time, like how we can travel back 4 minutes to someone's death, or how this fake Sizzle's body is actually able to constantly regenerate because of the Temsic fragment and look the same as it was 10 years ago, because he was in a constant state of dying and living since that moment, so his body literally cannot age. So I mean, that's kind of got to be really lucky that he's a spirit and he's not just constantly in a state of live life and death, because like, I mean, just imagine having to feel the pain of death while still being alive. That must have sucked. Also, the whole reason of Sith cooperating with Big Sizzle was not just for the Temsic fragment, but also to eliminate everyone who had to do with it, so that way it would just be like a national secret that would never be uncovered. So unlike the fake Sizzle who just wanted revenge on people who killed him that day, Sith wanted everyone dead, including the fake Sizzle. But I mean, he did miss that park enthusiast because he was hiding in the bushes, so they would have no idea of his existence. But it is kind of a bit clearer now, but just so we can get this over with, the whole reason Lynne got called because of the information on Jowd's case was just a trap made up by the fake Sizzle, so that way she could get convicted of murder. So the fake pretty much possessed Lynne and made her shoot his corpse. And apparently Lynne had plot armor and was able to resist the control for a bit and misfired for the first time. But I mean, that will also be a huge part later. But this was all just part of the plan for the fake Sizzle, but the Blue Man guy just wanted her dead, and that's why at the start of the game she was assassinated right after. Lynne actually has a heart-to-heart with this fake Sizzle and kind of resonates with him and cries for him. And at that small moment we get kind of a glimpse of hope again, as the communicator that Jowd had was actually still connected to the dead body. So we're thinking that we can go ahead and try and connect to there, because hey, Jowd might know what to do, and he's basically our only hope in this whole thing. And here's actually where the final parts of the story take place, and I really love this. And if you could experience this for yourself, I would really recommend it again, but it's just really great. We go to the torpedo room, and I'm just wondering how Camila and Lynne were even able to get here, because I'm pretty sure the whole submarine is like covered in water besides the 2 areas that we were in, but I'll just let it slide for now. And we're actually going to use one of the missiles for travel, which is, I mean, a pretty PogChamp moment. So I guess we really do need Lynne so that way she can fire it for us. But right before we launch, we do get a heart-to-heart with Missile, and he really doesn't want to leave because he wants to go ahead and protect Camila and Lynne since they are her owners. But Lynne just kind of says like, yo, you just staying here is not gonna change our fate. So it is just really heartwarming to have Capcom pretty much make a job of all things literally have true human emotions, because this is really heartwarming. But we finally reached the room, and oh boy, imposter followed us here, and it's here we learn his true name, Yamiel. The man who got killed 10 years ago was named Yamiel. Sizzle was just an alias for him, but the tension has got to be tight since Yamiel did follow us here. He's pretty much in the same room as Detective Jowd, you know, the guy who thought that he murdered him, which, yikes. So we learn more about Yamiel's past and how he was a systems engineer, the best in the whole country, and he was actually pulled into questioning because he was believed to be a spy for a project that he was working on for the nation. So him being pulled into questioning caused the events 10 years ago, Cabbanela leaving his gun in there, which I don't think I actually discussed, but he did leave his gun, which is a very important thing because since that time he was able to escape and then kidnap Lynne and all of that. Also, we do go back to 4 minutes before Child's death in the command room, which I honestly thought was just him being passed out. But no, he literally got blasted by bullets. I don't even know how that works, how they're able to fit that little small machine gun in there, but okay. But we also noticed something very interesting. Yomiel's corpse isn't glowing anymore, since, you know, the Tempsic fragment left his body, so before we couldn't really access his soul in the ghost world, but now it seems like we could. And this gives us a big chance to change fate, since we really couldn't go back to 4 minutes before his death because of the Tempsic fragment, but now we can change it since his body's a normal state now instead of being both alive and dead. So this is my favorite part of the game, since, you know, we don't know where this 4 minutes will lead to. It could be from 10 years ago, or it could be just 15 minutes ago. It's when the fragment got removed from his body. But the only way to find out is just to rewind time. And there's a save point. Got all dramatic with the music, and just cut it off. 0 out of 10, worst game ever, I can't believe it. I'm just kidding though. And here we are. Tempsic Park, 10 years ago, the day where Yomiel actually died. This is where Yomiel kind of understands that there might be no way to truly save him, but if we do stop this fragment from him, we can save everyone else from the future we just experienced, and he's fine with that. I'm not going to go too much into depth because I do want you to see this for yourself, and not just me explain the whole puzzle in this area, but we do save Yomiel from getting killed by both the fragment and the gunshot, which means he can never use the ghost tricks when this new reality happens. But there's one last important thing. Egg. An egg is right about to fall onto Yomiel, and so all three of us, Sizzle, Missile, and Yomiel himself, use our ghost tricks and save Lynne for the last, but technically first time in this game. Yomiel was unfortunately crushed under the rock after possessing himself and saving Lynne, and in this new future will be paralyzed, but it is being better than stuck in a world then where no one pays attention to him for being dead, and for him not being cleared, since in the other future he was able to be cleared of his crimes, quote-unquote crimes, because he never was actually the person who did it, about 6 months after his death. But we do get a very heartwarming cutscene of Lynne not being traumatized, almost dying twice in the span of a few minutes, and we're the cat. We're the cat. We just were told that we are the cat. We've been buddies with Yomiel for 10 long years, and went against his plans without knowing it. Now, probably like, hey, wait a minute, we didn't die next to a Tempsic fragment, what the hell, how do we get ghost tricks? Well, remember when Yomiel was carrying the little case of the junkyard, and with Lynne misfiring? Yeah, we were in it, and it caused him to gain ghost tricks. And guess what? Remember that cat in the little cutscene where he got shot? Yeah, so we were dead, and Yomiel possessed our corpse and ran off. So that was pretty shocking. Pretty fucking just huge confusion. Well, we say our goodbyes to everyone that we won't see due to our fate changing, or at least not for 10 years. And we head off into the new timeline with the better future. But we missed one last thing. Ray appears. You guys remember Ray, right? Right? The little lamp? Well, get ready for what I believe to be the most impossible thing to happen in this game, with, you know, ghost tricks and dead people being able to possess things, but Ray is Missile. It's Missile, but not just any Missile. So, not the one that we were just with, but this one is actually from another timeline. So this is like some Undertale, like timeline stuff right here, so it's gonna get kind of confusing, but I think you guys can understand. This Missile was from a future where everything got messed up. Lynne died from the assassin, the assassin and Yomio both broke into her home and killed Missile, and which, due to him being near Yomio, caused him to get ghost tricks, but he couldn't save Camila as he couldn't manipulate objects just like us. And in the end, we kept following Yomio all the way to the submarine, and get this, was somehow put into the control room. Like, that broke everything that happened in this timeline that could somewhat work. I mean, I get this timeline is completely different in there, but first, how did he get on board? Missile doesn't know the command room number to travel to, but I mean, I guess he could have called, Yomio could have called in through one room, but like, how would he know that he would go there? And Yomio can sense other ghosts, so the only true way Missile would have gone on is if he manipulated into like his code or something, which wasn't possible because of the Temsec fragment. So like, huh? But I mean, okay, fine. So the only thing he could do in his control room was do what we did and travel back 10 years ago when Yomio first died, and wait those 10 whole years just for us so we could save this timeline. But like, how? I mean, how did he travel back and still exist? Because Missile exists in this world, so how's he able to? I mean, then again, we did have the ghost Yomio and Yomio, like a live Yomio right now, just a few minutes ago, but like, that's a whatever. It's just very confusing. I won't really talk about what happens after this big reveal because it's a sweet ending that I really wish for you guys to experience on your own. And you can either play the game or watch a playthrough like I said before. Just know that explains why Sizzle was unconscious in this new timeline. This story is really amazing, and that was pretty much the whole summary of Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, heavily reduced and skipped through a whole lot. I really love this game as it's one of my favorite DS games out there, and it didn't get the love it deserved. I just really wish more people knew about its existence. I just really recommend you guys play it, or watch playthroughs like I said. I can't keep repeating myself enough. It's just one of those hidden gems that wasn't really talked about. Hey you guys, how'd you like that video? God, this took me forever to edit, and to record. I was like constantly doing other things and always getting blocked from being able to work on this. So yeah, I'm sorry for this huge delay in this video. I hope you guys liked it, hopefully. I should be working on things more often now, especially since it's summer. But I probably, like I said before, I probably won't be working on a Splatoon episode for this next upload. I think I'm gonna do something else because I just really want to take a break from Splatoon after getting all of my files deleted. That was like a huge heartbreaker for me, so hopefully I can do another video like this with something else that a lot of people know about, unlike Ghost Trick, but it isn't a game, it's a person, and you'll see when that happens. But yeah, see you all next time.